Okay, so for those of you that couldn't make it to the Google Meet, I thought I would just do some hints on the worm and the caterpillar from today's lesson. So we're in that lesson 4.5, which is for loops. Okay, and so what we want to do when you're approaching these, and really with any coding, you want to make it so that if you have say a constant that you have done, and in the case of both of these, for the worm and the caterpillar, all right, our constant is that num circles. Okay, and so at the very top it has it, and it's equal to some number that's in there. Okay, I think it starts out, it's at 15. All right, what I want to do is I want to write this code, and like I said, really your approach to any code, I want to write it so that if I go in and I change that one value, like I want to change the number of circles, that I only have to change it in one place. Okay, so I want to try to think of this code in terms of num circles and use that variable rather than putting in 15, to where if I want to change the number of circles, there are multiple places I'd have to change it. Okay, so let's think of how we can do that. So first off, for the worm, right, we're going to use a for loop, and we want, we're going to repeat that for loop for however many circles we have. So that one is really easy. So when you do your for loop for I in range, instead of a number in there, you're going to actually put num circles, right? Okay, so here again, I only want to change the actual numeric value of num circles in one place. I want everywhere else in the code, it automatically will take into account any changes I make in the number. All right, so now what does that affect? All right, what does the number of circles, what is it going to affect? Well, when I create a circle, right, the parameter that I give it is the radius. Okay, so what I want to do, okay, is I want the radius value to automatically update if I change the value of num circles. So let's see, what does that need to be? All right, so say this is my canvas. All right, and I know I won't be able to draw this evenly, but we're going to look at it anyway. I'll do my best. There, I knew it. I'll make it fit. There we go. Okay, so say those are my circles. So one thing that depends, so what is the radius? How can I define the radius based on the number of circles? Well, let's think about it. If I take that distance, right, which is get width, our good old friend get width, okay, if I divide it by the number of circles, that would give me what? That gives me the diameter, all right? My circle parameter wants the radius though, but if I take and divide it again by 2, all right, now I have the value of the radius in terms of that num circles. So if I change num circles, the radius automatically updates. Okay, so now what's the other thing that's got to change? Well, and I'm going to make this red just to change it out here. All right, this, right, the center point, which is the set position, so the x and y of the center point, well, and actually it's the It's just going to be the x because the y is going to be the same because we want it, right? We want it in the middle. So we're going to use our good old friend get height divided by 2 to get it in the very middle of the canvas. Okay, so now the set position has to change with each loop. Otherwise, all the circles will be created in the same spot, and we don't want that. So what we want to look at, though, is we want to look at, okay, what is the value of that x going to be? Well, if this is, right, that is x equals 0. This is 1 radius, right? I've gone over half of that circle. I've gone over 1 radius for that set position. And then where's the next one? Well, that's 2 radius is 3 radius. So that x is 3 times the radius. And then 1, 2 more. So that x is 5 times the radius. And then 1, 2 more. So that x is 7 times the radius. And so forth. All right, I think you get the point. So, and this is a very handy thing to do. If you are like given a multiple choice question that you need to answer, or in this case, we're trying to figure out how do I make it change with every loop? Well, what changes with every loop? I does, right? Every time it loops, I goes up 1. And so there are a lot of times that I can use that fact to help me do something like, in this case, change the x value of the center point of the circle. So let's think about that. All right, I'm going to do a little table. This is always handy. All right, and there's my x value. So, all right, I, right, starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So when I is 0, I want that x to be 1 times the radius. And when it's, whoops, let me try that again, not 2. It's going to be 3 times the radius. And then 5 times the radius. And 7 times the radius. Okay, so let's look at it. And we're not going to look at the, not focus so much. Sorry, I just need to erase that. It's bugging me. There we go. All right. So we're not going to focus so much on the 0 one to look for the pattern. But let's look at when I is 1, I want x to be 3. When I is 2, I want x to be 5. When I is 3, I want x to be 7. Okay, so let's think about the relationship between these, all right? And I'm going to, so that you can kind of see where we're headed with this, right? If I do, to get that number right there, if I do I times 2, right? Can you see that I times 2 is always 1 less than this multiplier here? So if I do I times 2 plus 1, all right, does that get me the number I want? Well, let's see. All right, if I do 0, 1, 2, 3. If I is 0, then that does indeed give me 1. If I is 1, I have 1 times 2, which is 2, plus 1, which is 3. If I is 2, I have 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1 is 5. If I is 3, I have 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1, which is 7. Okay, so my x value in my, and again, we're talking about that set position command for the circle, all right, my x value in there is going to be equal to I times 2 plus 1 times the radius variable. Okay, and so again, I'm defining that x value in terms of the loop that's in there, all right, and in terms of the radius, which will change when I change the num circles. Okay, so that, all right, so there's kind of some clues for the worm. The caterpillar, which is the last exercise in 4.5, is you're going to use the same code as you do for the worm. It's just that you're going to put in an if statement. Because in the caterpillar, now I'm going to go back here because I need my colors. All right, so the only difference in the caterpillar is that you have red, green, that you want the circles to alternate colors, okay? So how do we do that? Again, think in terms of the value of I. So, all right, when I'm doing a loop, if there is a way that I can make use of that I value, which, and again, it doesn't have to be called I. I is standard what we use, but you'll get further on and we'll have a loop within a loop where we have to call it J or H or anything, any variable name will work. All right, so there's I. So when I is 0, right, and this is going to be my color dot, whatever that's supposed to be, right? So for my set color command, so I want it to be, if I is 0, I want it red. If it's 1, I want it green. 2, I want it red. 3, I want it green. 4, I want it red, and so forth. Okay, so now we're going to remember a really useful math thing that we had, which is that modulus. Okay, because if I need it to do something when it's even and then do something else when it's odd, I can use this modulus and say if I modulus 2, right? So what does that mean? That's going to tell me if it's even or not, right? Because if it's even, 2 will divide into it with no remainder. And remember, the modulus returns the remainder of it. So I'm going to say if I modulus 2 equals, and right, I'm using double equal because it's comparing, it's not setting that value. If it is 0, right, then I'm going to tell it to set the color to red, right? Because I want it, when I is even, that's when I want it red. And then I can just say else, because in this case, there's only one other option. Either it's even or it's not. Else, then I'm going to set the color to green. And so that's the additional code that you'll be writing for the caterpillar. Okay, so hopefully that helped. For virtual days, I'm on Google Meet at 1:30. Don't have a lot of you coming in, so the ones that come in, you get personal attention, personal help. So maybe that'll motivate some of you to come in and get some help. Let me help you get caught up. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon.